Hey guys, it's Eric here at Farpoint Restorations and Repairs. Welcome back to the Volkswagen 66 Beetle Restoration Series. Finally got this girl inside. Unfortunately, the camera footage from the pulling this thing in is lost. And the initial diagnostics, you can see part of it on my video on the King Bolin power probe. But what we did is we dragged this thing in and the brakes were locked up, they were seized. So I've gone ahead in that video that no longer exists, pulled the wheels off and loosened up the brake drums. And we actually have movement here on all four wheels. So these are adjusted now, for now. Like after we drive it and it actually cooks off some of the rust that's built up, I'm sure they'll need to be adjusted again. But we got that loosened up. I also noticed at the same time that the tires were super dry rotted. Had plenty of tread, but like a lot of Beetles, they would be fixed up, driven just a little bit, and then parked for whatever reason. That is the case with this one. I put a set of tires that I had here for the Beetle on it, and I'm getting ready to remount those today. The part that is lost, the big part, was you would turn the key on, things would light up, not everything, but most things would light up, and she wouldn't kick over. I used that King Bolin power probe tester, and we applied voltage directly to the starter solenoid to see if we could bypass the system and get the engine to kick over. It wouldn't. So I ordered a new starter and went ahead and installed that in that video, and now the engine spins over. So today what I'm going to be doing is putting the wheels back on it. We're going to lower it down, and I have figured out what is going on next. And what is going on next is the fuel pump is not sending fuel to the carburetor. The gas in this thing, somebody must put fuel stabilizer in it because it is still smells good. You know, it doesn't have that varnishy smell to it. Whether or not the carburetor needs to be cleaned is another story, but what I want to do today is get the wheels back on it, lower it down. I've also got the battery on a charge, so the original battery was toast, but I have a battery on a charge, and we're going to replace the fuel pump, hook the hoses back up, and see if we can get this thing started. If we can, we're going to attempt to drive it. So this is going to be kind of an interesting video. It's a little bit of a longer video. Usually it's one thing. Once we get this thing and we drive it up and down the street, and I'll take you along with that, we'll pull it back in, and in part 3, I guess part 2, because the first part got wasted, we'll walk around this thing. We'll figure out what else we need to order for it to make it a daily driver. So let's do it. I'm going to get these tires on and we'll get the car lowered down to the ground. Let's go. These 5-wides are kind of a pain. Trying to line everything up and get your lug nuts back on can be a bit of a adventure, especially while trying to capture it on tape. All right, well, we got the Beetle back on almost the ground, and it's a good thing. I don't know if you could tell in the video, but my lift, one of the leveling parts of it has kicked out, and it is not safe to really be working under this. The whole Beetle rocks back and forth on it. That is not normally how this mid-rise scissor lift acts. So when we get this thing running, first step is obviously to take it for a test drive. The second step is re-level and re-secure the lift so that it comes up nice and even and stays nice and flat while we're working on it. Let me move the camera to the back here and we will start on fuel pump replacement. All right, here we go. Here is our fuel pump right here. This is an actual rebuildable pump, so I'm not going to be throwing this out, but I don't have the kit to rebuild it, and I'm in a hurry to see if I can get this thing running. So I'm going to go ahead and get a pair. This, you can see, this fuel line needs to be replaced. That is 3/16. You want to use the metric stuff. This is the proper stuff you want to have here, that braided German fuel line. I think it's 8mm. And so I'm going to get a pair of pliers and kind of rock that back and forth so that I can remove it. And then we have 2 13s, one's right here, one's right behind it back there. This one, open end or box end wrench. On the back, I try to use either a swivel. Sometimes I can get right in there with a 1/4-inch ratchet. Sometimes I can even come behind the distributor and get it from behind. We'll see how this one plays out. This is a unit that does have an alternator. This engine is not out of a 66, probably 73, 74 it looks like. Alternator, 34 PCIT, so a little newer model, dual port engine, all the rest. But the process is pretty much the same no matter what. Honestly, for the cost of the fuel line, which is usually less than $1 a foot. It's probably not a bad idea to consider replacing this if you don't know the date on it. I mean, you can actually see, I wish I could get the camera close enough, but maybe you can see, there are cracks in that rubber. Most of your vintage Beetles have engine fires as a result of this failing. This one does not have a fuel filter in it, which is kind of unusual. I imagine the original or the previous owner probably put it in line somewhere underneath the car. That's fine if you want to do that, but these cars are a little temperamental to burning up, so we want to make sure that doesn't happen. And for like $30 of brand new fuel line and a new fuel filter, pretty good idea to go ahead and do that. All right, so this bolt and the one behind it are our next challenges. I'm going to try to sneak this wrench in here and get behind it. And sometimes you can and sometimes you can't. Yeah, there we go. Thankfully it wasn't too tight on that, but I do have it started. And a lot of times once you get it started, you can work on it with your fingers. We'll go ahead and show you the front one here too as well. Get that loosened up. There we go. And we'll just take those off. No idea why this pump stopped working. If it's possible, and I don't know, I haven't looked under the car. We're just trying to get it running at this point. I haven't looked at the fuel system, but it's possible that the previous owner removed the fuel filter and just decided to roll with what he had, which is a terrible idea. Does it remove the threat of fire or loosen the threat of fire a bit? I suppose it does, but now you're dealing with a whole new set of problems, like clogging carburetors and ruining fuel pumps, so I don't recommend that either. Now, I don't have any battery attached, which is probably a smart idea since we're going to be playing with the possibility this car hasn't run in many years, so there's no fuel to spill out, but it's probably not a bad idea to unhook the battery when you're doing this. Anytime you're messing with fire, the possibility of creating a spark and you have an ignition source, that's going to be a big problem, or could be. And you'll see this is not a difficult or complicated job, just a bit tricky in the sense that you don't want to drop anything into the engine. Having a magnet is not a bad idea if you want to try to get the washer that's sitting on the back there is definitely something that could slide in and disappear. I'm going to try real hard to make sure that doesn't happen. There it is. There it is. So I've got that out of the way, and that should be that. Now, getting this off with the alternator is a whole lot harder. As you can see, it does not clear. That's not good, actually. I was hoping we'd have just enough, but this is not the right pump for this car. And so what we're going to do is take this off, and hopefully that'll give us enough room. Look at that, that was finger tight. And if we have to do that with the back, we can lift up. Oh, it's so close. Yeah, I think we'll have to take the one in the back for the carburetor off on this and just lift up just so it clears that front stud. Maybe the back one's as loose as the front one. I'm going to get the coil, or I'm sorry, the distributor cap. I'm going to pull it up and lay it off to the side just so I have better access to that rear one. That one's a little snugger. So that also is just a, if I can get to it, just a 13. Go ahead. There we go. Wow, that was probably sucking air right there, or would have been. Causes all kinds of drivability problems when you have small leaks like that. Okay. Okay, now I haven't pulled it all the way, but you can see I can lift and rock that back. All right, let's see what we got here. It's coming. Sometimes it doesn't want to, but it's coming, and there it is. That's all there is to it. That one, again, is different than the replacement, but The next thing we want to do here is this gasket is, this gasket's not a nice gasket. So we're going to replace that. We're going to carefully, I don't want all this trash to get down into the engine compartment if possible. So we'll go ahead and slowly lift up on the gasket. There we go. And you can see our riser here. There's our old gasket. We're going to get rid of that. Got a brand new one with our new kit. So we'll take our new gasket, slide it down on there. Okay, with our new gasket on, we can go ahead and reinstall this. And usually this is going to be a whole lot easier going back in. These the non-rebuildable types have a lower deck height, so we can usually just wiggle that in there. There we go. And we're going to push that down on there, and you can see the spring power for the pump. And we'll tighten those bolts back up. I'll do the front one first just because it's easier to get at. And we'll be rocking and rolling. In fact, if I hadn't had to loosen the carburetor up, you can tell this is maybe a 10-minute job. Certainly, it's not a difficult one. Okay, my friends, time to hook a battery in.
Yes.
All right, well, I got to open the door up. It's stinking in here with exhaust, but guess what? It runs. I'm going to get it outside, and we're going to run it for a while here. Let's see if we can get this thing back down. I mean, it runs. Let it warm up here for a little bit. Well, I guess that'll do it for part 2. It runs. Clearly it needs some work, but it runs and rolls and stops. The clutch felt good on it. Definitely going to need to clean the fuel system on it, but the carburetor ran well enough to get it out of the shop, and that's pretty much what I needed to do. I'm going to fix the lift, probably try to drive this thing even in the condition that it's in a little bit just to see what else I can feel or hear, and we'll go from there. Till next time, my friends, take care.